All right, all right, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to That's an Awful Take podcast, episode 17. I'm your host, Price Mancer, your host with the most, here to make the most out of your day. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Thursday. Mine was relatively busy, but fine. We take those. Chill week overall, but yeah, hope everyone's having a good week. Hope everyone's ready for another mock draft because that's what we got in store for today. If you couldn't tell, we'll talk a little bit about the combine here and there. But this is our first post-combine mock draft, so there's going to be a few big changes from the last couple mock drafts we've seen. If you guys watch the show, we keep up with it a good bit. But yeah, we got lots of good stuff in store for you guys. Can't wait to get into this mock draft. So yeah, I guess without further ado, we can just get into it. Start firing it off. All right, let's do it. All right, so new mock draft software, but you know the vibes. We're getting so lit. All right, so obviously Tennessee Titans 101. I don't think I need to explain what the pick is here. If you guys watch our previous mock drafts, you know what the pick is. It's been the same one for the past two, and rightfully so. I think, even though he's not technically a first-round grade, he's still the best quarterback in this class. It's just looking more and more like this pick is gonna happen. Let's see if I can find him. There he is. It's Cam Ward. Cam Ward is going first overall to the Tennessee Titans. This isn't really news to anyone. We know it's going to be Cam Ward. He has all the potential to be a great NFL quarterback. I think he's going to be really good, especially on a Tennessee team which isn't even that bad, to be honest. So they have a quarterback issue. This is the play to fix it. They drafted Cam Ward. So number 2 overall, the Browns. This is also not going to change from our last mock draft. It's Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter is a generational talent on the edge. He just looks electric. He could play a Micah Parsons role, or he could be just a straight edge rusher. The sky's really the limit. Myles Garrett requested a trade from the Browns. I'm repping the Browns right now, actually. But Myles Garrett requested a trade. Still has not been fulfilled, but I imagine it will be before the draft starts. Maybe they're waiting on free agency a little bit, but I think that they're going to definitely move him before the draft. So I could see, I think it just makes the most sense for Abdul Carter to be the pick for the Browns. We know Abdul Carter, generational edge rusher. He's the best one in this class, even throughout the combine. And there's some guys who could rise, but it stays the same as the past mock draft. Abdul Carter to the Browns. We love that pick. We really do. Next up, we got the Patriots. For this pick, we got the Patriots taking Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner. So I think it's really. Oh wait, I'm so slow. Sorry, to New York. I said New England. My bad. Anyways, Travis Hunter to New York. It's unknown where he'll play still in the league. Is he going to be a corner? Is he going to be a wide receiver? We don't know. But luckily the Giants need both corner and receiver, really. So having Travis Hunter alongside Malik Nabers is going to be really good for the Giants. Even having him on the other side of the ball. On defense to be your CB1 isn't a bad play at all. So even though it's unknown where he plays, I think regardless of where he plays, receiver or corner, he could even play both. I mean, the move has a lot of fit for New York, and it makes sense. And hopefully Brian Dable and the gang over in New York won't screw up and not draft someone that they shouldn't. But they did good with Malik Nabers, so I can't judge them for that. But I think the play is Travis Hunter here. I think it's the pick that makes the most sense. Next up in this mock draft, we got Mason Graham. So the picks are staying relatively the same so far, but Mason Graham, to me, he's kind of like the best player available. New England, you're kind of in a spot where you could take a lot of guys. You have a lot of open positions on your team. I mean, literally, if I'm New England, the only person I'm thinking about keeping really is Drake May. So literally, I feel like you can draft anywhere. I mean, Christian Gonzalez as well. But, you need two corners, right? So I think really the sky's the limit with New England. They could literally go anywhere. I just have them taking the best pick available, which is Mason Graham out of Michigan. I don't think he tested at the combine, but I think he is still the best guy available. He's the best defensive lineman, like pure defensive lineman in this class. So their defensive line is aging. Like I couldn't tell you one person on it. So Mason Graham, young up, get younger on the defensive line, and I think he'll do a lot, especially with a guy like Mason Graham who just eats blocks. Really a great pick here, in my opinion. Next up, we'll have our first real combine riser here, and it's Armand Membou, tackle out of Missouri. So Membou, he tested great at the combine. I think his raw athletic score, which if you guys don't know what raw athletic score, it's a score pretty much dependent on the things they test at the combine. So speed, explosiveness, and strength, I think, are the three categories of the RAS. So Membou tested great. His RAS score was like 9 something, so really high. So basically, the max you could get is like 999. 9.99 is a generational player. And Membou was like 992 or something. And among tackles, the only other 3 players with the same score as him was Trent Williams, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Tristan Wirfs, who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. So, and then the third one we'll get into a little bit later. He's in this draft class. I'll give you a little hint. But Armand Membou tested great at the combine. He posted one of the best RAS scores ever for a tackle. The only people with the same RAS score, as I mentioned, Tristan Wirfs and Trent Williams. Very good company to be with. I mean, just like pretty elite tackles in the NFL. When you think of elite tackles, I think the first person that comes to everyone's mind really is Trent Williams. So, very good company to be with. He's got great size. He's very explosive. And I think what makes him so different as well is that, if he doesn't work out at tackle, I don't think it's a stretch to put him at guard. He didn't play guard that much in college, but I don't think it's ridiculous to see him go to guard. So Armand Membou is the 5th overall pick, our first real riser from the combine. I think in our last mock draft, let me see where I had him in our last mock draft. It wasn't this high. Last mock draft, we had, I even have him going in the first round. I don't even think I had him going in the first round. Let me see. Oh, I did. From the Senior Bowl, I had him going to the Seahawks at pick 18. So, 12 point or like 13 pick jump. So, Armand Membou, first real combine riser. I think he has got himself drafted into the top 10. Number six is Shedeur Sanders. So, you look at, what, if I can find him. You look at, the positions or the teams that drafted. Obviously, there are probably 3 teams that need a quarterback left here in this top, in these top 6 picks, or I guess 4. But it's, the Titans, who are probably going to take Cam Ward. The Browns, who if they stick to defense, they're not going to pick a quarterback. The Giants, if they stick with Hunter, or, in this mock draft, we have them have them taking Hunter. Sorry. Obviously Travis Hunter is going to fall because I don't really think 4 and 5, Jacksonville's not going to draft a quarterback, and neither is the New England Patriots. So, number 6, the Raiders are going to take Shedeur Sanders. The Raiders need just about everything except for tight end. So really and truly, that's what I think will honestly happen given the current situation with the combine and stuff. I do think Shedeur Sanders falls to the Raiders. I mean, me personally, if I'm the Giants, I think you can take a bridge quarterback for a year, really and truly, because this QB class is just not that good. So take a bridge quarterback, see who goes into the draft next year. I think next year's QB draft will be much better. So, that's how I think. We're going to take a look over at chat real quick. Yo, gang, what's up, Bennett? Ryan, what are Jags doing? Armand Membou, baby. When's Benny Clubs getting picked up? dude, I don't know. When is Benny Kolb's getting picked up? I miss him. Anyways, when's Benny Kolb's coming to Milledgeville? That's a real question. When's Josh Hersey coming to Milledgeville? Even real question. Realer, right? All right, number 7. So the Jets are really in a hard spot right now. I don't think Rodgers is coming back. You just released Davante Adams. Garrett Wilson wants out. The defense is still looking good, but you got some big free agents like DJ Reed is a free agent. And I think there's a lot of question marks with this team moving forward. It's like, do you want to be a contender, or are you going to just sit and tank a year? And me personally, I think they need to sit and tank for a year, because honestly, like, what are they going to do? There's not a lot of talent offensively on the roster if we're being real, right? Especially if Garrett Wilson is gone. Breece Hall is only okay in my opinion. So I have the Jets taking Teteroa McMillan. So you just released Davante Adams. Garrett Wilson's future, uncertain. I think Tet makes a lot of sense here. And it also just depends on who the Jets roll out at quarterback. There are some pretty good free agents available, like Sam Darnold. Kirk Cousins, I think, still has it, in my opinion. Jameis Winston. There's a couple of guys in this free agency class that are QBs that are pretty decent. So we're going to have to see what happens with the Jets offense, who they decide to bring in. Maybe it's a case they roll out with Jordan Travis, which I think the Tet pick would make a lot of sense with Jordan Travis. I think Tet could play a very similar role to like a Keon Coleman or something, or a Johnny Wilson. What we saw a lot about that Florida State team last year, or 2 years ago, I guess, where, they threw it deep a lot, or maybe not a lot, but, the mid to deep field range, and we're able to connect because they have big body receivers. I think Tet McMillan could be that guy. So I have the Jets taking Tet McMillan, but there's a lot wrong with that team that they need to fix. So who knows where they can go. Next up, we got the Carolina Panthers, and I have the Panthers taking our next combine riser. I talked about him a little bit last week on our running back show when I was literally watching it as the show was going on. It's Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart is the second edge off the board. Listen, Shamar Stewart had an insane Senior Bowl. He came in at 280. His playing weight was 295 at Texas A&M last season. He goes to the Senior Bowl, is 280, and then he goes to the Combine and is like 267. So that alone is just pretty crazy, because you're thinking like maybe he's a tweener, maybe he's like in between an edge and a defensive tackle, but then he starts losing the weight, and then he's looking very dominant on the edge in the Senior Bowl, and then in the Combine he looks electric. Yeah, and Carolina needs help just about everywhere on defense. This class, very good defensively. We all know this. And I think they really need help on the D-line, especially Carolina does. So, they get Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart had like a 9.99 RAS score at edge rusher, which is like generational. His combine's being compared to Myles Garrett, former Texas A&M D tackle / edge rusher. So I think it makes a lot of sense here. The guy dropped 30 pounds. He had one of the best broad jumps in this class, one of the best verticals. He just looked insane. He looked so explosive. If you guys get a chance, just watch the drills. Watch the combine drills with Shamar Stewart. It was incredible. So, I think his stock is rising like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if he even goes higher than this, honestly, with how the comparisons he's drawing, how explosive he has been in the combine. He just looked insane. So Shamar Stewart, I think, rightfully deserves to be in the top 10. Have him going at 8 to Carolina. Stock's been rising like crazy. I think Carolina gets their guy for the defensive line. I think that's what Shamar Stewart is. So next, we got the Saints pick. And the Saints also are a team where defensively they could go a lot of different ways. But I think the pick for them here is going to be Georgia linebacker Jalen Walker. I think Jalen Walker is going to be a top 10 pick. You can't deny it, in my opinion. He didn't test at the combine. That's true. But the skill is evident. We saw him drop into coverage as a linebacker. We saw him line up against the run and stop the run. We saw him line up as a pass or an edge rusher, and he he got to the quarterback. He sacked the quarterback. So he can really line up anywhere on the defensive, like in the box, right? You can line him up in coverage. You can drop him back if you need to. But you want to use him as an edge. I think Jalen Walker might be the closest thing to a Micah Parsons-esque player that we have in this draft. Maybe other than, what's his name? Sorry, Abdul Carter. But Carter, I think, is more defined as an edge rusher than, Parsons was a middle linebacker coming out of college. And he played off-ball linebacker, I believe. So, yeah, Jalen Walker to the Saints. He can line up anywhere, and the Saints need a guy who can line up anywhere. Having him off the ball from Demario, or what's his name? The linebacker. I think it's Demario Douglas. And then, the Saints have no edge presence. So having him on the edge, I mean, he's one of the most athletic players in this class, one of the best players in this class, in my opinion. And I think the Saints get him in the top 10. I don't see him falling lower than like 11 or 12, in my opinion. So Jalen Walker to the Saints. Next up, the Bears. So the Bears have been relatively consistent with the Will Campbell pick, but we're going to switch it up this time. We're going to go with the Ashton Jeanty pick here. So Ben Johnson comes in as a new head coach for the Chicago Bears. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, he's made a couple trades already. He signed a couple guys that, have been O-linemen for him in the past. So that's my one concern. Like, they're already kind of addressing the O-line with free agency, and I think that's the route they're going to probably take. So I think Ashton Jeanty is the pick here. And just like imagine how explosive that Chicago offense is going to be with Ben Johnson at the helm. You got Caleb Williams, who, I think there's still a lot of potential there. I mean, yeah, he wasn't that impressive his rookie year, but there are still crazy amounts of potential in Caleb Williams. I mean, almost a two-time Heisman winner, two-time Heisman finalist, Heisman winner. Like, I think, the potential is definitely there for Caleb Williams. But, I think they take Jeanty here. Jeanty's a generational running back, the best running back in this class for sure. And I mean, just imagine how disgusting the offense will be if, let's say Caleb Williams, looks electric this season. You have Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore, you have Rome Odunze, and then your backfield is, you got Ashton Jeanty and DeAndre Swift splitting carries. I think that's quite disgusting. And having that in the Ben Johnson offense, the same offense that we saw the Detroit Lions run the past 2 years, I think it's just it should be a match made in heaven. But, defensively, obviously, the Bears have a lot wrong. But, offensively, I think they could be disgusting if this pick were to be made. So next up, we got the San Francisco 49ers. So the thing about the Niners is, it's like, what the heck is going on over there? So you look at San Francisco. Debo obviously requested a trade not too long ago. That trade finally got granted this week. So Debo is now a Commander. Love that for the Commanders, by the way. But, and then some reports came out that pretty much all of San Francisco's whole team is up to be called. Like, they're willing to trade away anyone. So I think San Francisco, the clock is ticking. And I don't know if they're trying to accelerate that by trading everyone, because it's not like they got good value in return for Deebo Samuel. But, Brandon Ayuk has still been, available to trade for. And then your star players are getting up there in age. Trent Williams is getting up there in age. Fred Warner is getting up there in age. CMC is getting up there in age. There hasn't been, you haven't signed Brock Purdy to a long-term deal. So it's like, what's going on? You're pretty much losing focus here, in my opinion, for the 49ers. But, you have one of the best tackles of all time on your team in Trent Williams. Why not, get his replacement? So that's what I think they do. I think they go Will Campbell. Yes, the size of the hands is a concern, or the size of the arms, I think it is. It'd be the shortest in the league by far. But he made it work in college. Can he make it work in the NFL? I don't know. I think he could. But, he could always move to guard. But having him sit, maybe he doesn't sit under Trent Williams, but having him learn from Trent Williams for at least a season, I think is going to do amazing work for Will Campbell. And, earlier we were talking, about how Armand Membu had this great RAS score. The only people who had the same RAS score were Tristan Wirfs and Trent Williams, and the fourth person who also had that same RAS score was Will Campbell. So Will Campbell is going to be a great O lineman, whether it's guard or tackle. I think he's going to be legitimately good. And I think for the 49ers, a team where the future is looking uncertain, I think it's important to, really anchor up on that offensive line, because your future can look uncertain, and your team, your star players aren't going to be or your skill position players aren't going to be the best. But if you have an O-line that is really good, your skill position players look that much better, in my opinion. So, and the 49ers are a team where, Jordan Mason came in and rushed for 1,000 yards, I think. Isaac Guerrero came in for a game and rushed for 100 yards. So it's, a lot has to do with the Shanahan scheme over there. And I think Will Campbell just kind of fits that mold perfectly. And, take over at left tackle once Trent Williams retires or leaves. Who knows? So, yeah, I like Will Campbell. I like the pick here. Next, we got the Cowboys on the clock. The Cowboys, Zach Martin just retired. So I think this is a pretty no-brainer pick if I am the Cowboys. I have the Cowboys taking, if I can find them. If I can't find them, it's no big deal. I'll just search them up. Anyways, I have the Cowboys taking Tyler Booker out of Alabama. So Booker, he's probably the best guard still in this class. I mean, obviously, we've had guys like Gray Zabel who've kind of flown up the ranks a little bit through the Senior Bowl and the Combine. But, Tyler Booker's still a great guard. He's the best guard in this class. Zach Martin just retired, and the Cowboys O-line needs help. I think that's pretty evident, by their performance last season. Dak Prescott gets hurt because he's getting sacked. So, I think the pick, and it's a very Cowboys-esque pick to me to pick, the only guard, like, decent enough to go this high. So I have them taking Trevor Booker, be the Zach Martin replacement. Who knows how that will go? Hopefully it'll be good. The last, Alabama offensive lineman I can think of is like Evan Neal, and he's not good. So hopefully it's a different story there. But I think this is a very Cowboys-esque pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. So we have the Cowboys taking Tyler Booker. Next, we got the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins, we have them taking Kelvin Banks out of Texas. So it's really unfortunate for Kelvin Banks. He's a guy who didn't test at the Combine. And so you got these guys like Campbell and Mimbu come in at the Combine and look absolutely electric. Kind of puts Kelvin Banks on the back burner a little bit, but that's okay. It doesn't fall too far, and I think it makes sense to bring him to Miami. They have Teron Armstead, but Armstead is getting old. Miami needs to protect Tua. That's pretty evident. And, Kelvin Banks is a guy who can play tackle, and he plays it very good. He looked very good at Texas, and I think he started for 2 years, and he did a great job. So I think, Kelvin Banks Jr. is a guy who can go to the Miami Dolphins and play good football, and that's what the Miami Dolphins need. They're running it back again with Tyreek, Waddle, Tua. So we're going to see how it goes. It hasn't been that successful, but, hopefully maybe you draft some linemen and it gets a lot better. So hopefully that's the case for the Miami Dolphins. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts. And, I'm not going to change, 2 mock drafts in a row. I've done it. I think it's the pick that makes the most sense. Tyler Warren is going to be a Colt. I think that's like one of the sure picks that's actually going to happen. So, I've had this pick the same for all 3 mock drafts. It's a make or break season for AR, and I think the Colts need to do everything possible to set him up for success. So, get Tyler Warren. He's a matchup nightmare. You can line him up just about anywhere. You can line him up in the backfield. You can line him up in line. You can line him up in the slot. I mean, you can line him up at wideout. There's so many options you could do with Tyler Warren, and the fact he creates like such a mismatch for defenses. I mean, we saw it all the time at Penn State, the way Penn State used him as a gadget player and lined him up in all these different positions. Defenses didn't know what to do. I think if the Colts were to do that with Tyler Warren, it'd be magical, really. You have an athletic freak like AR, you have an athletic freak like Jonathan Taylor, you get an athletic freak like Tyler Warren. I think they could be a really explosive offense if this were the case. So next up, we got the Atlanta Falcons, my Falcons. And this may be a crazy pick. I don't really think so. I've done some research and I've thought about it a lot, and I've seen it in other mocks before. But I have the Falcons taking Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. So, the Falcons, you really have the power to go anywhere defensively with the pick, especially at 15. I think 15 is a really good spot in this draft. I know that kind of sounds crazy. And yeah, you miss out on some of the top guys. But, even with this, how good this combine was and the risers of this combine, there's going to be good guys who fall. Like you see on the board right now, we got, Malachi Starks, Jahdae Barron, James Pierce Jr., Mike Green, Will Johnson, all still on the board, right? So I think really and truly at 15, Atlanta, there's really not a wrong pick that can be made, unless it's an offensive pick. If they pick an offensive player, I would lose it. But the Falcons have the power to really go anywhere defensively with this pick. There's not really a wrong pick in my opinion. Campbell's by far the best linebacker in this class. He plays off ball, and Raheem Morris loves his linebackers. We saw it last season. We just had a great linebacking core. We would rush them, against the pass. So, and what the good thing about Jahad Campbell I like was Campbell was recruited as an edge rusher initially when he went to Alabama, made the transition to linebacker, became an off-ball linebacker, and used him as a kind of a rushing off-ball linebacker at times. The Falcons do that a lot. I don't know if you guys watch film, but the Falcons did that so many times, and with the injuries to the Falcons linebacking core last season, and I think there's a lot of stuff up in the air for the Falcons linebacking core. You got a couple guys who are free agents, a couple guys who can't stay healthy. So I really like the Jahad Campbell pick, honestly, especially when he could rush the quarterback like he does. I think it makes a lot of sense to bring in Jahad Campbell, and even then you could draft another linebacker or another edge rusher, in the second round. I think there would be plenty of good edge rushers left in the second round. So I think it's a pick that makes a lot of sense. So next we got the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals, once again, they're a team that kind of needs a lot, but I have them taking Michael Williams out of Georgia. Once again, one of those guys where from the combine, his stock has kind of dropped because he didn't participate, but he's got amazing potential. I mean, you think about like Trayvon Walker a couple years ago. Trayvon Walker was taken with the first overall pick, and I'd say he's turned out pretty well. I mean, back-to-back seasons with double-digit sacks, creates a lot of pressure off the edge, him and Josh Hines-Allen. But anyways, Michael, great potential. I think, the production wasn't there last season at all. He was playing hurt, but I think potential-wise, he's one of the best, like, in terms of edge rushers as well, he's definitely top 3 edge rusher potential-wise in this class. He's good against the rush. He's good, potential is great for him to be a pass rusher. And I think he gets overshadowed a lot by the guys ahead of him, and the guys, especially in the combine that we've talked about, the Shamar Stewarts, the Abdul Carters. So I think this is the right pick. Not being in the combine kind of shoots his stock down, but I think this is a great pickup for the Cardinals overall. Next, we got the Bengals, and the Bengals, is a team that could really go anywhere. They just franchise tagged T. Higgins, so who knows what the future is there. Does he play, does he not? I think he does, because I don't think there's going to be a team who wants to take on a $26 million contract for 1 year, especially if there's no certainty that he'll resign or not. So I think that being said, it's definitely going to be a defensive pick, and they need just about anything. Sam Hubbard retired. Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade as of today. So, it could very well be edge rusher, but I have him taking corner. I have him taking Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. The slip falls there, a little mini slip there, but Will Johnson's a guy who didn't participate in the combine. T. Higgins is back. Will Johnson falls stops here. The Bengals defense needs help everywhere, really. So I think it could really be any pick, to be honest. I think they could very well pick like a James Pierce Jr., a Mike Green, a Donovan Ezraku, Kenneth Grant. There's a lot of ways that the Bengals will go, or could go, but I have them taking Will Johnson out of Michigan. Next, we got the Seattle Seahawks. So I have the Seahawks taking Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons looked great, especially playoff time. Josh Simmons was great. A very injury beaten Ohio State offensive line in the playoffs, right? You saw it in the game against Michigan. They got exposed. But excuse me, coming into the college football playoff, Ohio State looked great on the offensive line. They did such a great job blocking, and I think Josh Simmons is the right pick here. The Seahawks once again are a team where I kind of think they're stuck in limbo right now. You just released Tyler Lockett. Shortly after Tyler Lockett gets released, DK Metcalf is requesting a trade. So is it like the Geno Smith era is over in Seattle, right? So you think about it, if your two top receivers are gone, what's the point in keeping Geno Smith, in my opinion? But you still have JSN, who's a great receiver. But I think there could be, a youth movement, a little cultural reset for Seattle. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think defensively, yeah, guys like Tariq Woolen had a down year, but I think he'll bounce back for sure. You still have Devon Witherspoon, so you still have two very good corners. You have two pretty good safeties as well. So I think that Seattle just needs a little reset on offense, and especially on the O-line. Geno Smith, I think, was the most sacked quarterback last year. And, they drafted, I believe, Charles Cross a year ago, and Charles Cross has been good, but, he needs some help down there. So I think O-lineman is definitely the pick, whether that's guard or tackle. I could see, even a Gray Zabel rising up this far. But, Seattle's a team with a lot of, doesn't really have a direction, and I think their offense has holes that needs to be addressed. So I think Josh Simmons is the pick here at 18. At pick 19, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have them taking James Pierce Jr. James Pierce Jr., the speed and explosiveness, it's undeniable. I think having him off the edge in Tampa Bay will be great. You got Vita Vea in the middle. You got Kalijah Kancey on the other side. I think that's a great, pass rushing trio, I guess. But, those are the three they're going to be sending. So I really like that pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously there's some character concerns with James Pierce Jr., and maybe we'll see him fall because of it. Same with Mike Green, which is why we won't see him in this mock draft. But, James Pierce Jr., there's some question marks with the character, but the talent is definitely there. I think we saw that pretty evident by his explosiveness in the combine. Running a 4.47 as an edge rusher is just insane. So, James Pierce Jr. to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next, we got the Broncos, and I have the Broncos taking Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Denver needs help offensively, in my opinion. I don't think their running backs get it done. I don't think their receivers get it done. I mean, realistically, you have Courtland Sutton, who's pretty good, but I don't even think, I think there's definitely wide receiver 2 who's better than Courtland Sutton. So, Denver needs help offensively really bad. Marvin Mims and Valish, or I don't remember his name, but the receiving core they have it doesn't get it done for me, and I think that's a big reason why they didn't make the playoffs. But Denver needs help. You can go running back, tight end, but I think it's going to be wide receiver as of now. So I like them taking guy Burden. Luther Burden kind of fits a hole that is on the Denver offense. I feel like you have a lot of guys who can stretch it deep. Not a guy who could play in the middle of the field like Luther Burden can. So I like the Luther Burden pick here. Next, we got the Steelers, and I have the Steelers taking the Longhorn, Jahdae Barron. Jahdae Barron, I toot his horn a little bit. He's probably one of my favorite DBs from from this year's class. He's one of my favorite defensive backs in football or in college football last season. The Steelers need a cornerback too. That's the biggest weakness for them, I think, on defense. Barron can play on the boundary. He could play up high like a safety. He could play in the nickel. He can really play just about anywhere you want him to play. So that's the good part for the Steelers. He has plug and play potential, really, wherever you want to put him. But, pairing them up, you got JPJ on one side. You got Minka up high. Beanie Bishop was great last year in the slot. So I think Jahdae Barron makes a lot of sense here. One of my favorite corners in this class, or DBs rather. But I think Jahdae Barron fits the need very well. And I think defensively, especially, Mike Tomlin pick, I think that's a very Mike Tomlin pick, in my opinion. So give me Jahdae Barron, corner from Texas, to go to the Steelers. Next up, I've been seeing this in a lot of mock drafts. I've been trying to hold off on it because, I don't want the nepotism to happen. But in this one, it's happening. Colston Loveland to the LA Chargers to reunite with his former head coach, John Harbaugh. Is it Jim or John? I think it's John. Anyways, yeah. Colston Loveland, Harbaugh's going to get his guy. he isn't the best blocker, but he's a great receiver, and he can block. Not saying he's not a stellar blocker. You're not going to line him up in line and run I formation behind him, but he's still a great blocker, and he's still a great receiver. The Chargers need help at tight end. It's a pick that makes a lot of sense. Harbaugh's there. He played with Harbaugh before, so I think it's just a pick that makes a lot of sense. Is Colston Loveland to the LA Chargers. And the Chargers is an offense right now where Ladd McConkey is your best weapon. And we had this discussion in the group chat the other day, but I really like the Ladd McConkey. I like Ladd McConkey, but having Ladd McConkey as your wide receiver one is not going to help you that much, especially come playoff time, right? So, you're really relying on a lot from Quentin Johnston, but I think Colston Loveland is a great pick to be, a great tight end, really and truly. We're going to take a look at chat here, see what's going on. Don't hate that. W pick. Watching from the dugout how to show my kids who the GOAT is. Hey, let them know, Eli. Let them know. Anyways, next we got the Green Bay Packers. So the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be a DB, and it's like, which DB is it going to be? So if you look at the DBs left right now, you got Trey Amos, who had a pretty rough combine. I think he falls, personally. You got Maxwell Hairston, who had the fastest 40 time in the combine this year. I think even though he's undersized, he has a lot of potential. You got Siobhan Revell out of East Carolina. We've had him go in the first round a lot. You got Darian Porter, who's also a big combine riser. Benjamin Morrison, who's been a follower recently, and Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State, who has looked very good. But in my opinion, the pick here is going to be Maxwell Hairston after his electric combine performance. The speed is undeniable. Yes, the raw weight and the strength is not there, but he's going to be playing opposite of Jair Alexander. But I think this is a pick that makes a lot of sense. Hairston has a lot of potential. He looked really good at Kentucky, and even despite his weight, he plays bigger than he is. He was the fastest guy in the combine. The speed alone is probably what gets him drafted in the first round, regardless whether it's the Packers or not. I think he gets in the first round purely just based on his 40 time. Fastest guy in this year's combine, is going to happen. So Hairston to the Green Bay Packers. Next, we have the Minnesota Vikings. So Minnesota Vikings, I think there's a pretty obvious pick here. Maybe it's not so obvious, but the past 2 years we've seen multiple running backs go in the first round. We saw it with Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, and those turned out really well. Both of those picks, right? So I think the second running back of the draft goes off the board here, and I think it's Amarion Hampton to replace Aaron Jones. And I don't think there's going to be a deal. I don't think Jones is going to re-sign with the Vikings, but I think Hampton is a guy who can come in and play, if not like the exact same role as Aaron Jones. And I think Hampton, we talked about it last week. He's one of my favorite running backs in this class. He's been one of my favorite running backs in college football. My roommate's a UNC fan. Shout out Liam. But I'm not a UNC fan, but I love Amarion Hampton. The past 3 years, he's been absolutely electric, and he gets overshadowed by the big guys. He gets overshadowed, by Cam Skadowoo's performance. He gets overshadowed by Caleb Johnson, who burst onto the scene last season, and same with Ashton Jeanty. But Hampton, he's the clear RB2 in this class, and he's not that far away from being RB1, in my opinion. So the Vikings get their running back of the future. They get Amarion Hampton. I would not be surprised if that's the pick here. Next, we got the Houston Texans. Dang, we're getting close to finishing out. But Houston Texans, I think they go Gray Zabel here out of North Dakota State. It says tackle, but he's a guard. Gray Zabel has had one of the best rises this season. Once again, another combine riser, another Senior Bowl riser kind of guy. So Zabel, he's been on the rise since the Senior Bowl. He had a great Senior Bowl, won in one-on-ones against really good guys, and then had a great combine to back that up. And his stock continues to rise, and I really think he makes it into the first round to be that number 2 guard off the board. So I think, I like the pick for the Texans. The Texans need offensive line, and especially after, you look at the Texans offense as a whole, you have a great quarterback in C.J. Stroud. You have a great running back in Joe Mixon. You have great receivers in Nico Collins, Tank Dell, who's going to be out for a while. And then Stephon Diggs, and then you just traded for Christian Kirk today. So, I don't think they go receiver here, especially after the Christian Kirk trade. So I believe that O-line is going to be the pick here. And Gray Zabel is a guy who could play guard or center, which, fits perfectly for the Texans and what they're going to do. So I really like this pick, Gray Zabel to the Texans. Next up, we got the LA Rams. LA, shout out Sean McVay. I think they go O-line here. Kind of a boring pick, but I have them taking, let's see if I can find him, Cameron Williams out of Texas, the other side of that Texas offensive line. So we had, what's his name? Kelvin Banks up here somewhere. I can't find him, but yeah, right there. Kelvin Banks. We get the other side of that O-line and Cameron Williams, play right tackle. That's the main cause of concern, in my opinion, for the LA Rams. We saw it in the playoff game against the Eagles. The Rams, they were kind of getting outmatched by that Eagles pass rush, and that Eagles pass rush is really good. It's probably one of the best in football. But, if you're not going to make a deep playoff run, especially, when you have Matt Stafford running for his life back there when he's 40 years old, especially when you bring him back, So I think, the defense doesn't need a lot of work, in my opinion, if you're the LA Rams. I thought about going defense here, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I have him taking Cameron Williams from Texas to help shore up that offensive line. Maybe he sits and learns. Maybe he gets plugged in right away. But regardless, I think Cameron Williams has a lot of potential, especially at right tackle. So that is the pick for the LA Rams. Next up, we got the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens, I think they bring in Malachi Starks. The fall ends there. So Malachi Starks, I had him falling in this class a little bit just because of how good some of the guys tested above him at the combine. And not a lot of teams need safety, in my opinion, this year. Maybe, the Bengals do, or the Falcons, or even the Dolphins. But past that, it's like, I don't think there's a lot of teams that need a safety. But I think having Malachi Starks to play DB for the Baltimore Ravens is huge. You already have Marlon Humphreys. You have Nate Wiggins, two great corners. And then you have Kyle Hamilton. And, Kyle Hamilton wasn't able to play his normal role this season with the Baltimore Ravens. And I think that's kind of like what led to some of their falling shorts on defense. So, you get Malachi Starks, who can play back, who can play deep, he can play in the slot, he can play against the run. But, I think you're really going to sacrifice, the run stopping part of his game for, let Kyle Hamilton do that. I like the pairing here. Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks. You have Starks playing it deep. I like that a lot. Starks played really good at Georgia. I saw him get a lot of interceptions. I think he can do that in the league. So give me Malachi Starks to play some safety for the Baltimore Ravens next season. Next pick, we got the Lions. The Lions, this is low-key one of my favorite picks, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's Donovan Ezuraku out of Boston College. So Boston College, no one really watches Boston College ball. Let's be real. But Donovan Ezuraku was great for Boston College last season. The Lions need another sure pass rusher alongside Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson's out for the next, probably year. So, you need a guy. And I think, you have Anzalone, who could play off the edge, and he's pretty decent. But I think Donovan Ezuraku is a great pick here. They need to revitalize the edge and defensive line. The defensive line as a whole, I think, needs to be revitalized. And I think they will do that this offseason based on who they bring in. We'll have to see. But I think Donovan Ezuraku is a great pick here. Very underrated pass rusher, in my opinion. I think he's one of the best in this class. Definitely top 5. And no one really talks about him. He, all around, he has the best stuff, in my opinion. He's great against the run. He's great. He's got a great pass rushing repertoire. I think really and truly Ezuraku could be one of the best edge rushers in this class. I don't think it's that ridiculous to say. So give me Donovan Ezuraku to be the 28th pick to the Lions. We like that. Next, we got the Commanders, and I have the Commanders taking Nick Emmanwori out of South Carolina. Another one of those guys who was a projected second or third rounder, but due to his combine was absolutely electric. I mean, when we talk about the combine this year, the combine was, there are players just off the charts. And Nick Emmanwori is a great example of a guy who is off the charts. So off the charts, Armand Mimbu, Will Campbell, Shamar Stewart, Nick Emmanwori. I mean, all these guys tested super well. And Emmanwori, he put up a great broad jump. He put up a great vertical. and he put up. Did he run the 40? I don't remember, but regardless, he's going to rise into the first round. Emmanwori came in, blew everyone away with his athletic ability in the combine, and I think proved that he is probably the most athletic safety in this draft. And I think he's too good of a player, really, for the Commanders to pass up, especially when your head coach is, Dan Quinn, a defensive mastermind. I think that, Nick Emmanwori is the pick. You could go defensive line. You could go like a Kenneth Grant or a Derek Harmon or a Darius Alexander or a Walter Nolan maybe. But I think, one of those guys is going to be left in the second round for the Commanders, in my opinion. So I think Nick Emmanwori is the pick here. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's going to be really good, and he could play over the top. So, that's kind of, I think, a spot where the Commanders kind of struggle. Because, you have Lattimore, you have Sanders Strill, who played really good in the second half of the season. So I think they shore up. They get a safety to help cover their backside. I like that pick a lot. So give me Nick Emmanwori to the Commanders at 29. At pick 30, we got the Buffalo Bills, and I have the Buffalo Bills taking Emeka Egbuka from wide receiver from Ohio State. So I think what will happen in this draft, and kind of what I've been seeing with my past two mock drafts, reading other mock drafts, seeing other analysts, what they're saying, I think it's going to be a very defensive heavy draft. In terms of, the edge class is really good. The defensive line class is very decent. And there's a lot of guys who, they're just really good. And it's going to push some of these like offensive guys to the back burner. And I think, one of those guys just might be Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka is a great wide receiver. Like, don't get me wrong. I think all around, he's one of the best in this class. But, just because of like the amount of defensive players, the edge class is stacked. The corner class is really good. The linebackers are decent. Tackles are looking really stacked. Tight end is stacked. It puts, a weaker wide receiver class on the back burner, in my opinion. So I got Emeka Egbuka going to the Bills. The Bills need another weapon. Keon, last season, he didn't play that much. But he hasn't been all that. He's kind of just been a deep threat for him. And even then, I think he kind of got replaced by Matt Collins in the second half of the season. The Bills, they lock up Shakur. Khalil Shakir can play the slot perfectly. I love Khalil Shakir. He's a great wide receiver. But, the rest of the wide receivers, in my opinion, aren't worth keeping. Amari Cooper was a shell of his former self. Matt Collins, you got, what's his name from the Panthers? I forget his name. But Curtis Samuel. Like, there's not a lot of great guys in that Bills wide receiver room. And I think bringing Emeka Egbuka to be like, that middle field guy, you got Shakir underneath, you got Keon to go over the top, and you got two really good tight ends in Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Why not get Emeka Egbuka? I really like that fit, honestly. I think it's a move that makes a lot of sense. I think if Emeka Egbuka were to fall, I think this would be a great pickup. And the Bills, who are kind of like seen as a team that kind of missed out on the wide receivers. They didn't get Xavier Worthy or any of the other guys. They didn't get Ladd McConkey, where they were that early second, late first round guys who popped off, and they ended up getting Keon Coleman, who did significantly worse than the rest of them. So I think with that bad taste in their mouth, I could see them really taking Emeka Egbuka here with the 30th overall pick. Two more picks left. We'll get them done nice and quick. We got Josh Conerly, I think. Josh Conerly goes here to the Chiefs. The Chiefs need a tackle. The Chiefs put Joe Thuney at tackle in the Super Bowl, and he got exposed. The Chiefs need a tackle. Jawan Taylor sucks. The Chiefs need a tackle. That's all I'm going to say. The Chiefs just need a tackle. Conerly looked good in the combine. Chiefs need a tackle. It really should be a no-brainer pick. And it doesn't even have to be Conerly. It could be any of the other tackles available at the time. Ariante Ursary, Donovan Jackson, like those guys are going to be good. But I don't think it's like a ridiculous thing. I think they're going to take a tackle here. I think that's pretty proven. And another thing that is not going to change for me is the Eagles pick. The last pick, I have them taking Derek Harmon out of Oregon. So Derek Harmon, Milton Williams is looking like he's going to be out. Derek Harmon is in. It's simple as that. He had 40 pressures in college. And, having him as your third defensive tackle behind Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, it's great. It's a great fit. So here's the overall mock here. Yeah, mock draft 3.0. We love to see it. I think realistically, this some of these picks may change soon. We got about a month and a half till draft time. We'll do a draft show. I'm so excited for that. I can't wait. Doing a draft show. So I love this. So, that's our mock round 1, mock draft 3.0. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys have any questions about any of the picks, please leave a message in chat for me so I can answer them if you guys have any questions. If not, we'll move on shortly. We got a couple other things we're going to go over. Just some NBA stuff and some locks. Teams are canceling. I was going to talk about this. Oh, look at that! Bobby Wagner re-signed with the Commanders. Anyways, let's talk about one thing I wanted to kind of talk about. Do the Chiefs need a tackle? Yes, the Chiefs need a tackle really bad. They need it, like I need water right now. But anyways, I don't get we've seen a lot of college football teams canceling their spring games. Where does Stu Gash get drafted? Prison. But I think teams canceling. We've seen a lot of college football teams canceling their spring games. I think it's because, hear me out, it's because of Ole Miss. No offense to Stewart, but it's because of Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they stopped playing their spring game. And then, magically, a lot of their guys do not leave the team. And, it could be about, I like what Dabo Swinney said about it. Dabo Swinney was like, people are saying that the people canceling their spring games to stop the tampering or whatever with their players. Dabo said it's going to happen regardless, and it is. Really and truthfully, it is, and it sucks for college football, but tampering is going to happen regardless. And I think that that canceling your spring game isn't going to change that. And so I think teams are canceling their spring games because they don't want people to the portal. It's not because of tampering. It's because once these players see that they're not the starter, the norm nowadays is just to hit the portal. So I think that's kind of like why teams are doing it. But seeing as we are about done here, let's go ahead and switch gears here, and let's go hit some prize picks. So, I don't know, one of my picks not happen? Anyways, so let's get into it. So, we've been accumulating the balance here in prize picks for the past month or so. A little NBA stuff we like, but if you guys want to tail me on a little scary pick, with some demons, this is the one right here. Jackson Hayes over 6.5 rebounds, Karis LeVert points at 11.5, and then CJ McCollum demon assists. Pretty scary stuff, but I'm honestly pretty confident in it. I was really confident in this, to be honest. I might make another one now that that's not happening. But anyways, we're going to have to do that quick. Actually, let's do that. Let's do that right now. Why not? So we're going to keep it same with that McCollum, 1.5 or 2.5 assists. Where is it? We're going to keep that. We like that pick a lot. And a lot of times when I'm making my NBA parlays, I'll kind of look at like what's been going on the board. You see, this Giddey, I don't think it's going to hit, honestly. But am I going to test it? No. I just look for, stuff that I really like as you got to follow the trends, right? So, the last 5, whatever. But, sometimes you just got to do a bit of digging. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that Draymond Green line is not that bad. Or taking the under on a guy like Jason Tatum. It's not ridiculous. But let's see if I can find me something I actually do really like. Just to show you guys how it goes. If you ask me if I'm a real parlay crafter, this is what I do. This is how I see it. I don't like betting unders because unders are scary. And I'd rather, the thing I like to do is like this. Like, let's see if we can find something for Kevin Huerter real quick. So, I don't necessarily like, like something like that. It's not ridiculous. Even that, like, that's not even bad. Like, you look at the trends and you look at what these guys are putting up on the past couple of games, it's usually a good teller of what's going to hit and what's not. So I think, like, going with a Kevin Herter is not crazy here. Like, this against Orlando is not ridiculous. 12 points and assists. I really like that line, actually. So we're going to take that. So 20. I got the 20 in promo here. We're going to submit that thing. But, yeah. So, first parlay crafted on stream. CJ McCollum, 2.5 assists, and Kevin Herter, points assists. We like that. I think that's going to hit. But anyways, yeah, this is my demon lineup. MLB season parlay, if any of you guys want to tail that, I think it's going to hit. I'm very confident in it. Next, we got, hit this one last night. Hit this one the day before. Let's see. Let's go down here. This one hit, but Tobias Harris kind of sold us. But, it's all about following the trends, really, in the NBA picks. So, that's kind of what you have to do. I mean, we were on a nasty green streak down here. I mean, it was absolutely insane. Made a lot of money, So, if you guys, that's just how I roll. Yeah. What else do we have to talk about? Cavs clinched a playoff spot. The first one, I believe. Shout out to the Cavaliers. Got one of the best teams in basketball, in my opinion. So, I really like that. We can switch the point of view real quick. If you guys have any questions, please, leave them in chat. Well, Q&A session. Well, 6:57 Q&A till 7. If you guys got any questions, please let me know. Really enjoy doing this for y'all. You're the GOATs. All right, I'm not going to sit here in silence for another 2 minutes. I'm not going to lie. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching another episode of the That's an Awful Take podcast. We had a lot of viewers today. We love to see that. Mock Draft 3.0 went crazy. I'm glad everybody tuned in. Really enjoy. Very thankful for y'all tuning in. It means a lot. So, yeah, make sure you follow our Instagram, TAAT Pod, please, if you don't mind. I'll start posting content there. Maybe. No, I will. I really do need to. Anyways, please tune in. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll leave it a surprise, but it's going to be good. Just know that. All right. Everybody, thank you again for tuning into That's an Awful Take podcast. Once again, I'm your host with the most, Price Mancer. Hope I made the most out of your day with this podcast. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you again